Hi, everyone. Today we'll be talking about our experiences working as product managers and engineers working for Google Cloud, particularly G Suite. I'm Alex Wiesen. I'll be your host today. I work on Google Voice, which is a phone in the cloud. We have teams in Sunnyvale, California and Waterloo, Ontario, and make mobile apps and do backend engineering. And I've been at Google for about 7 years. Rena, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Rena Nadkarni, and I'm the product lead working on G Suite, primarily focused on meeting large customer needs. So my team works on the glue that holds this suite together. If you have these consumer products like Gmail, Drive, Docs, and editors, my team works on making those products more palatable for large customers. I have worked at Google about 7.5 years, and prior to this, I worked on the Google Commerce team. Ajit?
Hi, my name is Ajit Varma, and I am a product director working on Gmail, Calendar, Google+, and a couple of other products that are soon to launch. I have been at Google for 2 years, but I was actually at Google for 6 years previously and took a stint of doing startups for six years in the middle.
Awesome. Well, let's start by asking a very simple question. What are some of the most interesting projects that you've worked on? I'll start with Rena.
Sure. The most recent two projects that I worked on that have been really interesting, one was related to G Suite, where we had not only just the G Suite Enterprise launch that I did last year, but also my team built all the features that went into this launch. And so what that meant was we helped users better protect their data. We're now working also with G Suite for EDU. So our students all from K through 12 are able to use our products. So that's really interesting. And the other one we did more recently was a product called as Work Insights. And what that does is that it allows you to figure out which teams are collaborating well within your organization and such. So that's been really exciting.
A project that I've worked on is really exciting was in Gmail, we have a feature called Smart Reply and Smart Compose, which we launched recently. And the thing that's so awesome about it is we have built a lot of really cool machine learning algorithms that take a ton of data across a lot of emails in order to help users write their emails. But the thing that's amazing is that despite all that complexity on the back end, it's such a approachable, easy feature for people to see on the front end where you load Gmail and there's this nice little buttons that you can press in order to reply. How about you, Alex? What are some exciting things you've done?
Well, I have to add about Smart Reply. I use it all the time in Gmail. So if anyone ever gets an email from me that's 3 words long, it's probably a Smart Reply, but I really meant every word of it. Yeah, for me, Google Voice has been a really exciting product to work on. We have a really passionate user community. We have lots of users that have been with us for a long time. And so over the last few years, we've been doing 2 big things. The first part was creating a brand new set of mobile apps and web experiences for users to really kind of reboot the service and make it fresh and new again for folks. That's been really awesome. That launched early last year. And then this year and this summer at Cloud Next, we announced Voice for G Suite. And we're bringing voice to businesses and enterprises, and we're also going international with it. So we just went into beta. We have tremendous interest. It's been very exciting to talk to people around the world who are excited to use Google Voice and use it in new ways. And so it's been a lot of fun for us to learn all that stuff.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah. A follow-up question that I had was, tell me a bit about how does your team work? How is the structure of your team?
So typically we work in the triad that is product management, engineering, and UX. And we iterate our products between them. And we have a lot of focus really on user research, making sure that the customer has a very strong voice into what we are building. And even as we go to market, we have things like a technical advisory board where we bring in customers, have them try out our products. We do unboxings where customers try out the products before they go out of the door and things like that. So that's really this triad working closely and having a strong voice at the customer, testing out these user journeys is how we really bring products to market. How is it in your team, Ajit?
It's very similar. We have engineering, product, and UX leads, and everybody on all the teams that I work with are so passionate about the things that we're building. So in a lot of ways, what guides us is ultimately what our customers' needs are. And so we spend a lot of time with UXR and research and just prioritization of our customers' features. And so having that close relationship with them is pretty critical. How about you, Alex?
For our team, in addition to kind of the normal team structure, we create these dynamic teams called squads. which we'll create around a particular initiative. Maybe it's a new feature we're doing or something new that we're looking into. And we'll have a mix of UX researchers and designers and product management and engineers all working together on that feature. It gives folks opportunities to lead. If you want to try out leadership, for the first time, it can be a great opportunity to just try leading a squad. And then sometimes folks will go on to that to go into greater leadership roles. And it also just gives you an opportunity to work with a lot of different people. And you get to work with a number of different engineers. So, but as you pointed out, like at the end of the day, we all really work for our users. This is our product in particular, given its rich history, we're really focused on what our users want, what they're looking for, and making sure that we're continuing to focus on things that really work for them. Along the same lines, thinking about our users a bit, how would you say you measure impact?
For measuring impact, a lot depends on what you're trying to do. So we have different impact measures depending on the type of product that we have. So some typical examples could be just user adoption. How many people, thought this was important that they used it. We have in certain cases task completion, like how many users started a particular task and they were able to end it. Another one is customer satisfaction, or we do net promoter score, which is NPS. There's a variety of different things you can use to measure the impact depending on the type of product you're trying to do. What do you use, or maybe Ajit, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, so we definitely have a lot of measurement. I think it's a very Google thing. There's a process called OKRs, which is objective and key result that we set every quarter and every year to say what are we trying to accomplish. And every year we have some slight variations. In our world, we think a lot about how do we make people more productive. And one area that we've talked a lot about for next year is how do we actually help people save time. And I think that's so important because it's we want the tools to go into the background, and so you can spend more time doing your craft and doing what you love. And so we're looking at how do we shave seconds off of actions, minutes off of actions, and be a lot more assistive, which is one of the reasons I'm really excited about things that are coming up for 2019.
Awesome. Yeah, speaking on the engineering side, I think we look at the same kind of things, CSAT, it's basically customer happiness and satisfaction. We look at net promoter score as well. And I think there's also lots of other kinds of metrics we can use as engineers, things like latency and reliability and uptime. And we're very data driven at Google, which I think is really awesome because I think it's always easier to make decisions with data. When you're measuring things, you can do an A/B experiment and see how many more users click through this way as opposed to the other way. And so it gives you a sense of satisfaction, I think, as an engineer when you build something and you can see that the work that you did, you can see the metrics that reflect, oh, people are using this, they're engaging with this, they really like this. So I think it makes it pretty fun.
Yeah, when I first joined, someone told me everyone has opinions, data wins arguments. So I've remembered that always.
Awesome. Well, another question that's come up is, what do you think Google's sort of secret sauce is? What's the special sauce at Google that makes it working here kind of extra?
You should answer that first from an engineering perspective.
Sure. One of the things I describe for engineers at Google is that we have so much exciting infrastructure and things for storage and running things in the cloud. Thinking about Google Cloud powering all the stuff that we've built, and when I first came to work, my very first few weeks in the job, I had to do some job where I needed to run on 5,000 machines in the cloud, and it was that was really small at Google, and I was shocked because my previous company was a startup, and I just hadn't realized. Now these days, maybe 5,000 machines is small to everybody, but for me, it felt really big, and you can run at really large scale. You can do all sorts of things. It feels like the power of the technology that Google makes available to engineers is just immensely powerful, and it's just some of the people you'll work with in areas like speech or AI are some of the smartest people. A funny story I'll just share is I was working alongside this engineer for a week on this project. He was just a humble, super nice person. And I found out after I'd been working with him for a week that he was the inventor of Internet Relay Chat. And I was I used that all the time. And I was just amazed that this humble, nice person who's working on this feature with me also happened to invent. And you just run into people like that all the time at Google. That's the other kind of magical thing about the company is just so many nice, humble people who are secretly geniuses. And just, I had no idea.
Yeah, I definitely found that just happens so often at Google where you're just working with people and they're just so nice and you just learn so much. I think a lot of what I think in my career is not just what I can do, but where can I learn the most? And I feel when you're working with smart people and you're working on really big problems at Google scale, your opportunity to learn is greater than almost any other company out there.
Great. Well, I think we can actually go to our some of our live questions now. let's see, the first question we've got is from Sam. And it says, what are the main qualification skill sets you look at when you interview candidates for a position in your team?
Sure. So for a product management position at a high level, I'm looking for three things: strong analytical skills, strong technical skills, and product insights. So what that means is analytical skills, any problem we give you, right, or any problem you encounter as a product manager, you're able to break a large problem into small manageable chunks and tackle them. So that's analytical skills, typically like a case question or what have you, right? Then the next thing we're looking for really is deep technical skills. You will find that the Google product managers are typically more technical. Having managed product manager teams both inside and outside of Google, Google definitely looks for a higher technical bar for our PMs. And then the third thing is product insights, meaning, do you understand what your customers want? And without actually asking them is, like, what do you want? But really figuring out the intent behind the ask and then trying to solve that problem in a way that maybe even the customer didn't imagine to begin with. Do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, in addition to, I think, all those skills that help you do your job, two things that I've always found great to see in effective product manager. So one is passion and another is grit. So around passion, it's like, you spend so much of your life at work. You should love what you're doing. And I think people who are passionate about what they do, like they'll think about things that they're not being asked about, but they're thinking about that just constantly. And the other thing is like grit is we're going to see challenges, whether they're internal challenges or external challenges, regardless of any interesting problem you work on. And so you really have to come at it as like, you're going to solve the problem, and every barrier that comes up, you're going to find a way to go through that barrier. And I think people who have those traits, like in addition to being able to do a job, like it just is better for our customers to have someone who's just that much of an advocate for them.
Awesome. Well, before I came to this, I actually was cleaning my cat's litter box, so I have a bit of grit on me now, actually. So I think I should become a product manager.
But how is it for engineering? What do you guys look for in candidates?
Actually, I think that's one of the most awesome things about Google engineering. I remember I actually applied for a job at another company before Google, and the best thing they ever did for my career is turn me down. And they asked me a lot of questions about very specific technology. They said, do you know about this technology and that technology? And my reply to those was, no, I can learn it though. And at Google, what we're really looking for is people who can learn things. And so our interview process may seem a little odd that we're asking all these algorithm questions, and you could just go to the bookstore and get a book and review it and study, and then you could pass our interviews. But it's because our interview structure is really focused on assessing people's ability to be creative and think outside the box and come up with solutions to things. Because once you get into Google, I mentioned this earlier with our technology, we have so much amazing technology that we can use here, but it's all kind of unique to Google. So even if, for me, I came into Google with a lot of years of Java experience, and I thought, I'm going to be doing Java programming at Google, it's going to be pretty similar. And then I saw the first bit of code at Google written in Java, and I was like, what language is this? But I mean, it's all it takes is really the ability to learn new things. And so really, mostly what we're looking for is just creativity and ability to learn new things. I think the other thing that's kind of unique, or maybe not unique, but certainly consistent at Google, is we're also looking for people who really work well with others. I think we value the ability to work on a team and to collaborate with people very highly at Google. And so in my experience, everyone I've worked with at Google has been really nice, really friendly, like easy to work with. You have really constructive conversations. Let me ask a question. This one comes from Layla. What is a typical career growth path for a cloud PM or eng at Google? Maybe you want to start with this?
Sure. So the one great thing about Google is that Google's growing really fast. And so what I've seen is any company that sort of has growth, like you just always constantly have more opportunities available to you. And so that could be on the team that you're in, like the team's getting bigger, we have more customers, and we're working on more challenging products. Or it could mean that because we hire so much for generalists at Google, you really have the opportunity to work on any team within Google. So I've never sort of been in a situation when anyone on my team couldn't sort of fulfill their career objectives. And I think that that's great that you can constantly challenge yourself. How about you guys?
I would say one thing I will add to that is that once you are a product manager at Google and you launch something, you're part of one team for a bit, there's many other options. There's lots of flexibility. So today you're working on G Suite, tomorrow you could be working on other cloud areas. If you care deeply about YouTube, you could go there in a couple of years. You could go to Google Play, to Android. So that's the kind of flexibility which I think really helps people achieve their career objectives without having to feel like, what can I do next?
And I think it's even encouraged, like personally, I've worked on 4 different areas, very different areas within Google, and I learned a lot in each area. And I'd say every time my manager said, yeah, you want to learn something new, like it's a great opportunity to expand your knowledge.
Yeah, and you were telling us about lunch about the different teams you've been a part of as well, right?
Yes. And actually one of the things that's exciting on the Eng side is for a larger team like ours, there's also mobility within the team. So right now, my lead for our Android app used to be a backend engineer doing C++ programming, and now he's doing Java Android development because he got tired of doing C++ backend. He's like, you know what, I want to do something new. And we see that happen all the time. Folks go from front end to back end or learn a new language or learn something new. We were Google's first consumer app written in Swift for iOS.
I see.
And so that was like everyone on that team got to blaze a new trail. And so there's always opportunities to learn there. In terms of career growth path, I think we really look at what people's career goals are at Google and try to figure out the path for them to achieve it. I think there's a lot of flexibility and an opportunity for people to think about where do you want to get to? What kind of job do you want to have? I mentioned squads earlier and like as an opportunity to test out leadership. And then there's folks that become tech leads, that can become managers if they want to go into people management. I personally love management because I love working with people and I like to talk, as you can tell from me doing this thing. But there's also deep technical, people can go on the technical ladder quite deeply and create amazing algorithms or other technology. So there's really a lot of options at Google. And then, of course, switching teams is something that you can do. I've had a lot of folks switch to join my team. I've had some folks from my team reach a point in their career where they want to move to another country and they've moved to Europe and taken on a job on a team there. So it's really awesome. I think once you're at Google, there's just so many different things you can do to grow your career. I think it's a really great place to be. Next question is from Amar, and it says, can you describe your typical day at work? How is your work-life balance?
Sure. So on a typical day, I think that most of the time my day starts with, I block a little bit of time to catch up with, emails and things like that. And then I typically will have, a set of meetings on urgent topics or customer escalations or things like that. I've tried really hard to keep the lunch block open so I can actually eat with other human beings. And, that's a hard one to do. Typically for me, I have to leave at a certain time to be home for some amount of time in the evening. So I block my calendar for that time as well. And then I have a team, a set of people who we work with in Bangalore. So I have to do night calls sometimes, but I balance that with making sure that I have time for the family in the middle, like from 6 to 9. So I will not take calls during that time. But then if you need, I have a couple of days in the week that I make available for my Bangalore team. Yeah. How about you?
I'd say it's pretty similar. So I block off some time in the morning as my kids are getting ready to go to school, and in the evening as well. And then during the day, like sort of an interesting role because on Google Calendar, I spend a lot of time like how do we optimize people's day. So it's kind of actually fun to put on a project, but spend a lot of time like with meetings. Trying to, I'd say, remove friction for my teams. So that could be like making decisions on product prioritization, product features, fair amount of time like spent talking to customers to understand like their needs. And then also, I would say there's a lot of like one-on-one conversations. Like for me, mentorship and growth of the team is really important. So I spend a lot of time with my team to try to make sure that all their needs are sort of met as well. How about you, Alex?
Well, I could tell you what my day is like as a manager, but a manager's job's a little weird. I think my main job is to support my team and to serve them and of course, through them serve our users. So my job tends to be much more about helping wherever I can help. But thinking back to when I was an engineer, I think a typical day would be just coming into the office in the morning, excited to dig into whatever project I was working on and coding, and working alongside my fellow engineers. The culture in the company, we have an open floor plan, which at first I thought, I hadn't worked in one before I came to Google. And I thought it would be awkward to be surrounded by people, but I found it's actually fun to be, you're in there and you can talk about code as you're running into it. Like, has anyone seen this before? Because the reality is sometimes you see things in code that are a little bit surprising. And so, going out to lunch with the team, the team typically goes out in groups to get lunch together, and you can talk about whatever's going on and continue to work throughout the afternoon and head home in the evening and spend time with my family. It was a very good work-life balance. I've been very happy with it. I think for me, now that I'm a manager, one of the things I've learned about myself is that I love to read email, and so I check email outside of work hours a lot, but that's my own choice. And I've come to accept that I love doing it, so it's okay.
And I'd say that's pretty typical of Googlers. Like you always have your phone on you, so it's like you're still always connected.
Yeah, I don't feel like there's an expectation I have to be connected. I just like it, so I do it. So let's see. Do we have time for one more question? Let's take a question here from Mark. Does research for new technology like Gmail auto reply tend to be done at the product team's level, like in Google Cloud, or is it more of a centralized function under Alphabet?
Sure. So it's very collaborative, like across the board. So a lot of the underlying technology that made things possible, like Smart Reply, is technology that's been built at Google. So things like TPUs are basically the underlying infrastructure that have actually made us like be able to process Smart Reply at a cost that's actually feasible for a free product like Gmail. But in terms of like the actual like application, the UI, the recommendations, a lot of that is done centrally on the product teams. And then especially like as we have new features like Smart Compose, like we have some central algorithms, but like a lot of the application and how do we make sure that it's a frictionless experience is on a product team. And then I think a lot of people probably don't realize how much iterations that we do on a product like Gmail. So our bar is very high to make sure that any features that we launch, people are very happy with. And so we try a lot of like different treatments, a lot of different like A/B experiments. And then even after we launch, we look at happiness to make sure that all these features are in fact beneficial. And so we have a lot of features coming out in this area, especially with machine learning, that I feel like we're constantly working with all teams all across Google to make sure that we have all the benefits of being part of Google, but then we custom tailor all those technologies to our own individual products.
How about for you?
Yeah, some of the things that you were talking about, I can relate to as well, because we benefit so much from the scale of the infrastructure and the machine learning that we get. We're able to find different applications for it. A really good example is how can we apply something like a centralized machine learning technology and then find applications for it in the areas of, say, security, better protecting our users from phishing and malware attacks. So that's the kind of thing we're looking at, like what can we do with this technology? How can we build upon it and then maybe contributed back to the central Google as well.
Yeah, speaking for Google Voice, I think we work with a lot of other teams that also develop deep technology. If you think about speech recognition, there's a huge team at Google that specializes in that. We work with them to help them create a custom model, for example, for voicemail transcription. What we use for voicemail transcription is a special model that's based on the generous donations of millions of Google Voice users who've opted in. It's an opt-in donation to use our voicemail for machine learning to create a model. And so we layer that data and we send it to the speech team and let them build a custom model for us. So there's opportunities for partnership there, but we also do a lot of work in-house too. And for like smaller features that we're developing, especially things that are more directly related to our product, we'll do that development within the team itself. So we have a question now from Amir. How much does the product manager at Google focus on strategic versus operational tasks?
Strategic versus operational tasks, I would say that a lot depends on where you are in the product lifecycle. If you are in the beginning of the product lifecycle where you're defining a brand new area, a new product or a new feature, you're really looking at the market, trying to figure out what your customers' needs are, who your customers are even, right? As you get closer to launch and you're iterating over the product, there are certainly times where you have more focused operationally, meaning, figuring out the customer list, who should be in your alpha, who should be in your beta. But many a times these trains run in parallel. So on any given day, it's very likely, or any given week, it's very likely that you'd be doing a combination of strategic tasks for the next product that you're looking at, the next feature that you're looking at, versus also doing operational tasks for launching and bringing to market the current feature and product that you're working on.
Yeah, and the way I've always thought about it is that you really have like a portfolio of products. Okay. And so you want everything in your portfolio to be like balanced. So you're looking at your customer requests and like help centers and things like that and say, okay, these are the top 5 friction points. And those are, of course, like easy to do and like people will be happy to use those features. But you really want to say that, okay, what are the things that people aren't even asking for? And so it's not just about improvements, but it's like, what are things that, like when we're thinking of, say, something like Gmail, like it's a communication product at its core. So when we were thinking strategically, we thought, okay, people are worried about security. Can we do things like Gmail Confidential, which allows allows like a lot more secure communication. And those are like on a more strategic side. And on the tactical side, it's like, okay, when you're signing up, can we remove steps from the process? And so it's very much a balance. And I think that like resonates with our users, because you have a whole spectrum of users, from people who are very casual users to very sophisticated users. And you want to make sure that you're sort of like addressing the needs for everybody. A portfolio of products, I think, usually works.
Speaking from the engineering perspective, I think one of the interesting things that is like kind of a parallel for engineering is that sometimes people will ask how much of your time is spent doing, say, operational, or maybe it's like, you're doing pushes or releases versus writing new features and things like that. And I think one of the things that I think is really valuable, is important for my team, is we try to load balance that out for folks so that we have rotations for doing some of the, I don't want to call it grungy work, but it's the stuff that you need to do to keep the lights on, and then also make sure everyone has an opportunity to also work on new features and new initiatives that are happening on the team, so that you get a variety of those. The last question I think we can get to today comes from Chris, which is this is a great question. What are the highlights of Google's culture?
That's a good one. I'll say two things, right? Like when I think about my 7.5 years at Google and reflect upon it, for me, there are two things that are really important. One is the opportunity for impact, and the other is the people. So let me start with the people first. Most of the people that I work with are fairly down to earth. Like you shared a story about someone, who you didn't even know had invented IRC, right? In the same way, most of the people that I work with are fairly down to earth, but at the same time, there is a lot of, respect and a sense of responsibility for the opportunity that we have in front of us. So that's really important to me. The second is the impact. So, take for example, if you are in our team, like in G Suite, right? We are a mission-driven organization, and we really believe that we can save people time, and that we can, affect change to make their work lives better. So that's kind of really important for me, that we have a sense of purpose and a mission, and we work with people who are good to work with. So those are the two things for me. Ajit, what do you think?
There's a French bistro in our building. It gets great food. But I think just the impact is like the biggest thing for me. I think there's very few places where you can actually sort of like build products that people use in their daily lives. And I'd say there's like so many like instances, whether I'm like at the airport or in a train, where I can look at someone's like, over their shoulders at their mobile phone, and like, oh, they're using a product that I work on. And so then, that's sort of like very motivating to say, like, when I am building features or like working with the team on them, that it's going to have like a major impact. And so doing things the right way is really important. And a lot of times when we look at Scale Google, like, we say, okay, well, 1% of people are hitting this friction point. Well, 1% of products with 1 billion people, that's like tens of millions of people. So you just really have like a ability to have like a high bar for yourself, and I think like that perfection and stuff, I think is great. How about you, Alex?
I think for me the most magical thing about Google's engineering culture is how open it is. If you go into Google's source code repository, you can see code from products across the company, from Gmail to Hangouts to Google Plus to Drive, you name it. And it's really remarkable that I can see all that code, and I can see all the bugs that people have written and the to-dos that they left themselves. But I think many companies that would be more siloed. You wouldn't get that access to each other's data. And I think the openness kind of continues onto the culture. Like, we're very open internally, and we talk about things, sometimes sensitive topics or things that are a little bit rough, but we have that culture where we're free to really talk about things honestly and openly with each other, which I find really refreshing for a company as big as Google. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning into this live stream. We hope that you learned a bit about product management and engineering at Google. If you'd like to learn more about careers at Google, take a look at the links in the description. And if you would like to learn more by following future videos, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.